Hey guys, today we're going back to the roots, and we're not talking about nostalgia or history for history's sake. What we're talking about is the single idea that actually built our profession, and that single idea has the power to rebuild the health of an individual, of a family, of a city, of a state, and even the health of a nation. Honestly, I think that's what MAGA needs right now, and I can't be more excited to get into this.
Absolutely. And BJ Palmer called it the big idea, right? And you to really understand it, when you really get to the nuts and bolts of it, it's really going to change your family. It's going to change your body. It's going to change your health. It's going to just change. It's going to have rippling effects through everything around you, right? And when you find these communities of people that have this big idea, that they understand what chiropractic is, they understand chiropractic philosophy, they understand this lifestyle, then you start to find these communities, these centers, these groups of people, and it starts to spread outwards. That's really the thing about chiropractic. Chiropractic has held on strong through so much turmoil, so many attacks, so many things, so many different groups that have come after it and tried to shut it down. And the reason why it has always held on strong is because the philosophy works, because it's amazing, because it changes lives, because people have these life-changing moments with it, even though they're not getting paid to, even though they're not getting big dollars from pharmaceutical companies, even though there's not millions and millions and millions of dollars funding these colleges that are doing it and that have all this propaganda behind it. It really is this grassroots things that just changes people's lives. And it's the big idea.
That would have been why I married you, if you were that passionate before we even got married. Honestly, like when I hear you talk about chiropractic, I had to take my coat off, right? Like it gets me, I started getting warm inside my coat because when you talk about chiropractic, it gets me fired up. And what's interesting, and I know a lot of people don't know this, is we've talked about it, but that wasn't your background. So to hear you anchored in the principle gets me so excited. So I want to share with you guys something that I shared with my team just recently. And when we were talking about who we are, who is Aligned Chiropractic, what is chiropractic, what is our profession? Is it neck pain, back pain, and headaches? It isn't. Are we good at it? Absolutely. Are we good at helping people with digestive issues and infertility and ADHD? Absolutely, because it's all about your nervous system and healing. But when we talk about the bigger picture, you said big idea, right? And I've even had chiropractors, lifelong professional chiropractors, come to me and they're like, I never got the big idea. And this is the thing that I always go back to. This was the thing that helped me get the big idea. And so I want you guys to listen to this. Listen to it intently. In fact, if you have a notepad or a pen, write down the one or two things that really provoke some thought in you and learn about those. Challenge yourself on them. If this is new to you, if you're a chiropractic patient, you're like, oh, I go in because my elbow and my neck, and my hip, or whatever it is, we're going to challenge you right now. I want you to read this because I just think you're like better at reading stuff and putting in but I think this is just probably the best written piece on chiropractic that I've ever heard.
A slip on a snowy sidewalk in winter is a small thing. It happens to millions. A fall from a ladder in the summer is a small thing. That also happens to millions. The slip or a fall produces a subluxation. The subluxation is a small thing. The subluxation produces pressure on a nerve. The pressure is a small thing. The pressure cuts off flow of mental impulses. That decreased flowing is a small thing. That decreased flowing produces diseased body and brain. This is a big thing to that man. Multiply that sick man by 1,000, and you control the physical and mental welfare of a city. Multiply that man by 1,000,000, and you shape the physical and mental destiny of a state. Multiply that man by 130 million, and you forecast and can prophesy the physical and mental status of a nation. Now comes a man. Any one man is a small thing. This man gives an adjustment. That adjustment is a small thing. The adjustment replaces the subluxation. That is a small thing. The adjusted subluxation releases pressure upon the nerves. That's a small thing. The released pressure restores health to a man. That is a big thing to a man. multiply that well man by 1,000, and you step up physical and mental welfare of a city. Multiply that well man by 1,000,000, and you increase the efficiency of a state. Multiply that well man by 130 million, and you have produced a healthy, wealthy, and better race for posterity. So adjustment of the subluxation to release a pressure upon nerves, to restore mental impulses flow, to restore health is big enough to rebuild thoughts and actions of the world. The idea that knows cause, that can correct cause of disease, is one of the biggest ideas known. Without it, nations fall. With it, nations rise. The idea is the biggest that I know.
That was B.J. Palmer in 1944, and he literally called that the big idea. And the numbers don't match up today. A city doesn't have 1,000 people in it. Westchester, Ohio has 65,000 people. One of our goals right now is to have 1,000 active patients under care. And by active, I mean coming in at least once a month. And if we have a total active patient group of 1,000 people, it would take 65 chiropractors in Westchester alone to make sure that every man, woman, and child got adjusted once a month so they could experience what B.J. Palmer talked about as a visionary, as a prophetic when it came to chiropractic, as having a vision for healthcare bigger than medicine, bigger than surgery. And listen, it doesn't mean there's never medicine, there's never surgery. Right. It means that there's a bigger idea that calls people and pulls them towards health versus our comfort and seeking pleasure that tends to push us towards dysfunction, disease, and ultimately death early. And so he had a vision bigger. So for our office, there's only about like 20 chiropractors in the Westchester Liberty area.
We need more.
That means we'd all have to be seeing about 3,000 patients coming in minimum once a month in order to serve the population. And if the population, one of my, this is not I think if you understand the big idea, you understand where I'm coming from. But there was a mentor of mine, early chiropractor, since passed away, that said, if a mom and dad understood the true value of chiropractic when it came to their children's health and growing up as healthy adults, that they would be bringing their children in and holding their chiropractor at gunpoint until they adjusted their children. And that is how, like, for me, that's how real chiropractic. So we get the calls on
no guns necessary. You can just bring it in.
Please don't do that.
Please don't do that.
Please don't do that. We're all for first or your what's the amendment? Second Amendment rights. We're all for it. But I would prefer that you just come in and we take care of them and we'll have a good relationship. That being said, if we stopped getting the emails and the texts of like, my kid has a fever, my kid has an ear infection, my kid has tonsillitis, my kid has digestive issues, my kid has this. If these kids were getting regularly adjusted, if adults were getting regularly adjusted, it would change the outcome, not just of health, but as a healthy individual, you're more productive, you're more functional, you're a better mom, you're a better dad, you're a better spouse, you're a better business person, you're a better CEO, you're a better our politicians need chiropractic care. Let me get that straight. But that being said, I want to break this down, and like, we're going to spend the next several minutes going through this because there was a ton of wisdom in there. Right. And I just want to go topically through what does that mean? So the very first part, right?
That right there is chiropractic. And the first time I ever heard about chiropractic, I thought neck pain, back pain.
Well, yours was rib pain.
Mine was, but that wasn't even, like when I'd ever heard of a chiropractor, I'd heard of a chiropractor right before. Mm-hmm. And it was just like, oh yeah, I knew somebody who had back pain. And so they went to a chiropractor. That's about like saying, I use my car to put my coffee in the morning. Yeah. Like, you don't drive it? Yeah. Like, what are you talking about?
I go to church for the cracker and the grape juice.
Yes. juice. Like, what are you talking about? That's not what it's
Do they have the best crackers and best grape
Yeah,
juice?
like, do you get crackers and grapefruit juice? Yeah, sure. Like, yeah. Can your car, like, does it have a cup holder in it? Yeah, I can hold your coffee.
Yeah.
Like, is that what it's used for?
But
No.
you're missing the entire point.
Yeah, you're missing the entire thing. And it's the recognition of the small things, right?
Yeah. The neck pain, the back pain, the cracking of bones, those are the small things. And they're things that often we don't notice, or when we do notice, we put them off, and they can change the entirety of the trajectory of our life. BJ wasn't talking about the fall on the sidewalk. He mentioned the fall on the sidewalk. He mentioned the fall off the ladder. He talked about, the injury, but what he really talked about was the nervous system being the master control system of the body, and that innately the way we heal is from above down, inside out. And that was the big idea. The big idea he was trying to get everybody to wrap their heads around. He was saying tiny interference changes everything, and tiny correction changes everything. And I'll if you repeat that over, and this is why I love new patients. I love them, but I love new patients because they represent something else. The mom comes in, she represents a family of 5. I don't want to change mom's world. I want to change that family's world. And then that family starts under care. And I don't want to change that family's world. I want to change their community, their Bible study group, their kindergarten class. Yes. I want to change. And then when that community gets it, it's not about changing that community. It's about how do we change a business, or how do we change a church, or how do we change a city, or how do we change. And this, don't get me wrong, this can be exhausting. It's exhausting work. If you don't go home at night happily exhausted, 2 words there, happily exhausted, then you're not living out your passion and your fulfillment. Right. And I go home times very exhausted, but resting my head on my pillow at night, knowing that I moved the mountains in my path to change something for people, and not just one person at a time, but seeing the bigger picture. And that's what BJ was talking about.
Absolutely. And listen, we live in a world that glorifies these big events, right? Big diagnoses, big surgeries, big medical interventions.
That's so true.
Big emergencies. You hear about it. It's like you get on social media and you'll see your Facebook feed filled up with big prayer requests for these giant catastrophes, big things that happen at church. It literally is the most heartbreaking thing for us when we go to church and we hear these prayer requests for these big diagnoses and big emergencies.
And they take big prayers and they take big faith, but life often doesn't collapse in a big event. I'm not saying you can't have a car accident. I'm not saying you can't have a major trauma. But more often than not, what we see is it occurs through accumulation.
Yes.
It's little car accidents. It's the slip. It's the fall. It's years of sitting behind a desk, or kids staring down at their phones. I don't know, what are they, TikToking or whatever? Stress, phone screens, inflammation, poor sleep. All these small things add up to the big things, and your nervous system is absorbing all of that stress and having to deal with it. And the thing that BJ was describing was that pressure on a nerve. Okay, so your nervous system is dealing with this, and it has to have communication within the body. But if there's pressure on a nerve, it would be like taking one root at a time on a tree and cut one root. Mm-hmm. You may not notice it. It's a small thing. Cut another root. Cut another root. It's, what is it? Death by a
1,000 cuts.
Death by 1,000 cuts.
Yeah.
And that we accumulate all these small stressors. But that nervous system, that root structure of a tree, the root structure of your nerves is controlling the big thing. It's regulating your heart. It's regulating your sleep. It's regulating your breathing. It's regulating your digestion. And those aren't just dysfunction. Those small things don't add up to small things. Those small things add up to your life. Yeah. Life. Yeah. And that's what we're really talking about.
And it's kind of we've kind of laughed before, because we've had patients come in before and they've said, I actually went to sleep. I'm just at the age now where I go to sleep and I wake up and something's wrong now. I just slept wrong. Or I bent over and I picked up a pencil. Right. And then my back went out and I had to get care. We've had to wheel our office chairs out to the parking lot, right, to put somebody, fold them. Fold them out of their car and wheel them back in. And we've never wheeled anybody back out to the parking lot. I can tell you that from a chair. But we've done those things.
That's actually a great point. we've wheeled people in. We've never wheeled people out.
Yeah, we've never wheeled anybody back out. Yeah. When we've taken our office chair out and we've had to get them out of their car to bring them in the office. Yeah, no. And listen, it is, I say it because I'm so used to it that it's like, yeah, of course. Like, this is what we do. This is what we're excellent at, right? And I don't want to take it for granted ever, but it's true. Like taking a second in that and say, like,
yeah, we're not talking about like quadriplegic comes in, they've been in a wheelchair. Like, before you guys think we're laying on hands and right, we're talking about an individual who the day before could move,
right?
No longer can move and had to be wheeled in on a chair. We've never had a circumstance ever that I can think of where somebody got wheeled in or crawled in and didn't walk out on their own 2 feet. And again, that's a small thing. That's back pain.
Yeah, it's back pain.
That's back pain. Don't get me wrong. It'd be life-changing. But the part that people miss, and I think my favorite part about this is the trauma, the slip, the fall off a ladder, the slip on the sidewalk was a small thing. The minor fender bender was a small thing, the accumulation. But then BJ goes on to say the adjustment is a small thing.
Yeah.
He says a chiropractor is one man, and one man is a small thing in society. Yeah. And the chiropractor administers an adjustment, and that adjustment's a small thing. And as chiropractors, I want you to know in our profession, hopefully this is what people feel, is that there's humility.
Yeah. That
we recognize that our role is limited and the chiropractor is not bigger than chiropractic.
Yeah.
And chiropractic, the only reason why chiropractic works, the profession, is because it acknowledges that the big thing is the innate ability that God gave you to heal, function, and thrive, and that the spirit and the power that he put in your body is the big thing. But the adjustment, one adjustment, is a small thing. It takes a second. Even though it's precise, even though in most cases it's gentle and it's not dramatic. Every now and then there's a dramatic one, but most cases it's not dramatic.
Yeah.
But what it unlocks, that is big. I would even say it's huge.
Yeah, and there's a tension in that. Like there's this, because I love what you're saying there about the humility in chiropractic, because there is like it's a requirement of this humility, this level of humility that exists, that you have to exist and there's a level of humility in a patient, like laying down on a table and just saying, like, I'm gonna lay down here and you're gonna adjust me and put your hands on my neck and put your hands on my spine and adjust me. There's a level there of like really humbling yourself too. And there's an interesting tension there though with the chiropractor, right? And versus the medical system. And I don't want to say versus necessarily
contrasted to,
yeah. Right. And in the issues, because in medicine, right, the emergency medicine, thank God for it. Thank God for the times that my son swallowed a quarter and the time that he broke his arm. And I think those are the only 2 times we've ever been to a hospital before. But thank God that they were there in those systems for those occasions, right? Yeah. Because that in emergency medicine, we had very skilled, very wonderful doctor and very wonderful hospital, and they really took care of our kids in those moments, right? But then there's this tension in this space when emergency medicine creeps into what we're talking about, which is just wellness,
health, healing, wellness, life, thriving.
Every day. It works every single day.
Because when that pressure comes off the nerve, so the adjustment happens, right? So the vertebra is adjusted. That adjustment offers some correction to dysfunction. And pressure comes off a nerve, okay? And again, roots on the tree, right?
Yeah.
So they're not being cut, but they're being stressed, damaged, or interfered with. And when those nerves start to heal, what happens is they first heal, it starts to regulate normal function in the body, and then what happens is the body starts to coordinate its activity better, it starts to adapt, and eventually it starts restoring order and function, and that adjustment doesn't heal you. So here's another part of this, is that the adjustment was small. The things that change, the healing, the regulation, the coordinates, they're bigger things, but the adjustment didn't heal you. The chiropractor didn't heal you. Here's the best part. You heal you. You, the way you were created, the way God designed you. The adjustment just removes the interference to what was blocking what was already there. That's the big idea. And it's the most elegant, most beautiful, and most simple solution I know to restoring health in somebody's body, or their lack of health, or their state of disease. And I can't think of, I say this all the time to patients, they're like, but I have cancer. I have cancer. Like, I got to go to the cancer doctor. I'm like, yes, you do. You need to consult. You need to talk to people. You need to figure out a strategy. Right. You need to figure out what strategy you align with. But name me one condition. I don't care if it's cancer. I don't care if it's ALS, Lou Gehrig's disease. Mm-hmm. I don't care if it's a stubbed toe. Yeah. Name me one condition that heals better with a damaged, interfered with, broken, dysfunctional nervous system.
No one.
The communication from above, down, inside out, that your brain is trying to control the healing. I can't think of a condition that does better with more nerve interference and less nerve interference. No,
there's not one. And okay, so here's what's interesting is that we come today and like we're sitting here with the state and the state of our health in the United States of America, right? And like there's obviously there's a number of tipping points that are coming, right? That we've been sitting in our city for the last 17 years now, where we've been sitting in front of small groups of people 2 to 3 to 4 times a week, sitting with a group of between 2 to 15, 19, 20 people we've had, in a room before. And we've been addressing the state of health in America.
So, I mean, for clarity, report of findings.
We
have new patients. We have about 180 to 100 new patients coming into our office. So every week we have to, twice a week, so 100 divided by 4 is 25, divided by 2 is 12. So on average, we're getting 8 to 12 people and spouses sitting in our office. And the most important thing we do isn't their exam, their consultation, or figuring out where their subluxations are. That is a big part of it.
Right.
The most important part isn't their first adjustment, although that is their first step. The most important part, and when I stand in front of people every single week, if you're a patient in my office or you're going to be a patient in my office, you're going to hear this is my favorite thing I get to do every week is I get to teach you how you heal, how it happens within your body from a physiological standpoint, and what subluxation does to interfere with that, and how chiropractic, again, is the most simple and elegant solution for being well. Absolutely. Now, that's one person. You're sitting in our report of findings, and you're there. You're the spouse, right? You're the husband. You're the wife, and we always invite the husband or wife, the other person, to be next to him. And frequently, I'll get this guy. The football game's on. He's here with his wife, and he's sitting there. And when I say tonight, what I'm going to share with you guys, this is my absolute favorite appointment. What I'm going to share with you guys is I'm going to teach you guys the single best thing I know for changing your health for the best and having the best outcomes for your health that you could ever have. This is the single most important appointment you'll ever have in a doctor's office. This guy goes from this to he's like, all right, I'm listening, but you better drop something quick here.
Yeah.
And immediately I try to take people from seeing it on small scale, neck pain, back pain, or headaches. How many of you guys have ever experienced that? How many of you know chiropractors help with that? Yep. Absolutely. But did you know that the first chiropractic adjustment restored a deaf man's hearing? Small thing.
Small thing.
Correction, small thing. The healing, small thing. Getting your hearing back, big thing. Big thing.
Big thing.
Now imagine, like BJ Palmer said in this, multiply that by 1,000, multiply that by 1,000,000. What if 1,000,000 people today experience that didn't experience it yesterday? 1,000,000. Okay? 1,000,000. Think of that.
And when we started talking about this 17 years ago in Report of Findings, we had to shake people out of their seat to say, do you understand the state that we're in right now?
Yeah.
Do you understand the state that we're in? Do you understand what's happening in America? Do you understand the amount of pharmaceutical drugs that we take? Do you understand that the outcomes that we have in our country are worse than any other civilized country in the world? That we are on par with third world countries?
Do you understand that the leading cause of death in the United States is medical practice? Like, hear me out on this. 225 to 300,000 people die every year from reactions to drugs given for the right condition at the right time, taken properly. 225,000 people die from taking their prescription, the right prescription for the right problem at the right time. And then you roll in medical error and all these different things, and over 1 million people a year, 1 million. So when we say multiply that by 1 million, somebody healing, getting results, multiply by 1 million. On the medical side, the leading cause of death in the United States is medical practice. And it doesn't mean that doctors are evil or this or that. It just means that there is risk, and it's not about health. It's about treating conditions. But if we go to this other way of removing interference, these little things, these little accumulations, and then these little adjustments, that every little adjustment brings you closer to vitality and further away from death, multiply that, that burnout, that inflamed, stressed, subluxated person, multiply that by 1,000 or 2,000 or 10,000, in our case, 65,000, you have a city.
Yes, you do. And listen, when you're sitting at the bottom of that, like when you're sitting there and you're going, the state of our nation, the state of health in our nation is so terrible. How are we ever going to get out of this? When you're sitting at it and when you're looking around at your family members that are sick or have disease, or maybe it's you, or maybe it's your kids, or maybe it's, people that you love, or people that you work with, or people that are and we're looking around, we're seeing just the amount of people that are sick, the amount of people that aren't living to their full potential because they're being stopped by all these chronic conditions that they have, that things that aren't unrealized dreams, unrecognized, things that never end up happening, time that you miss with your family, time that you miss with your kids, time that you miss with your parents that aren't there anymore because of how bad the state is. When you look at something like that and there's nothing but despair around you, the thing that you have to be able to hang your hat on, the thing that you have to be able to have faith in and turn to is the big idea.
Yeah.
Is the big idea is that we walk through, and we talk about this. We talk about that like the person that's going back on the beach and they're throwing back in
starfish.
The starfish, and they're saying like why would you're not even going to help anybody.
There's 10,000 starfish on the beach, and the little boy is throwing them back one at a time, and the person says, look around, there's so many of them, you're not going to be able to help them all. Don't you see it? It doesn't matter.
Right.
And he throws one more back and he goes, it mattered to that one.
Yeah.
And then he throws another one, mattered to that one.
Right.
And the reality is, like, we have to go after it. We have to.
Right.
Because we're at a point where the opposite's true, is where, Dr. Ryan, are you telling me I need to get adjusted once a week for the rest of my life?
Yes.
You go to Starbucks 3 times a week. You know what I mean? Right. You pull into Chick-fil-A twice a week. You get a massage once a month. You go to CrossFit 4 days a week. You take the kids to volleyball practice 3 days a week on the court and 1 day a week in sand. And you take...
that was a
that's
surprise.
That's a little close to home. That's close to home.
We've been surprised with volleyball this year.
You know what I mean?
Yeah.
You wash the dog's paws twice a day because the yard's muddy and you want them to get out and get some exercise. Like, what I'm telling you is, if your health matters, you figure out a rhythm and you remove a little bit of interference that's been accumulating over the last 6 to 7 days. You remove that interference that's been accumulating, and once a week you get adjusted and you remove the interference, so that the biggest idea we know, above, down, inside out, that healing comes from the way that God created your body, your spine and your nervous system were established first. How do you know that God wants you to get adjusted? Because your spine and your nervous system, your brain and spinal cord, were the first things he created. And then second to that became the spinal column that protected it. And so if we want to really pay attention to how to get healthy, we got to pay attention to the design and who designed it and the creator. And, it's not that God was intending for you to have a chiropractor, or God was a chiropractor, but we're blessed to have chiropractic because chiropractic acknowledges his design. And if we can really wrap our heads around that, one person gets well. That can change the family, because dad's coming home and he's not upset in the evening and he's not miserable from his back pain. He's not kicking the dog and yelling at the kids. The kids grow up differently.
Mom has a more regulated nervous system. Mom isn't freaking out all the time. Like, mom can handle the stress of all of the obligations that she has. It's a different sort of dynamic in the family.
Those kids end up growing up differently. Eventually, those kids start asking questions. Your family looks different. You go to church and people are like, man, like, your kids have been at church every week. They weren't sick with the flu last week. Wow, your kids sit there and they're not like jittering it all over the place and their nervous systems aren't out of control. Like, what's going on with your family? You go to work and your coworkers start going, hey man, like I noticed that when I used to walk by your desk, like you always had your head down, you're rubbing the back of your neck. I know that sometimes you had to leave and the lighting bothered you or the stress of work or whatever, but I've noticed that like you've been on top, like you're on the top of our sales leaderboard. You're doing this, like what's going on? And then your coworkers start to notice. Your church, they start to see it. They start seeing changes in your family, your energy and your health. And better yet, your church, we've had this. 1 or 2 people come in. Next thing you know, 2 or 3 people come in that they refer. Families starting to care, and the church starts to see a revival in their energy and health. We talked about that a few weeks ago when we were doing church programs. A church lost, combined 3 churches lost over 5,000 pounds in under, I think it was 6 weeks. 5,000 pounds. 5,000 pounds. Think about that.
In the air.
Think about that. That's
Right.
crazy.
Yeah.
Now, was that chiropractic alone? Absolutely not. But so many of those people came in. In fact, I remember a family that started during that church program, and we taught them nutrition. We taught them exercise. We taught them taking your thoughts captive and having a healthy mindset. We taught them detoxification. And I did this church program, and I hadn't seen this couple since the church program. 3 years later, they came in. And I remember they came into the office. I was like, oh my gosh, I haven't seen these guys since we did that thing with Journey Church and the Vineyard Church and Church Christ Mason. These 3 churches got together. And I remember this couple coming in. I said, what took you so long? And I was joking around like, it's good to see you guys. Like, oh my gosh, what took you so long? And they said, oh, well, the exercise is free. We did that first. We switched to organic food and we figured out our budget with that. And it's actually not as hard as it seemed like. Right. And then we started keeping a journal. We started working on our mindset. And then we started getting rid of our toxic products in our house. We figured out how to get rid of our skincare products that were toxic and how to swap them out. We switched out our cleaning solutions, whatever. And they said, but you taught us 5 essentials, not 4. And the one to me that I personally think that if I had to withhold any of them from my family, the one that I would not withhold would be chiropractic and the adjustments, because I understand the power there. But they said this was the next logical step, and we've saved up and we've invested for this, and it was far less than that they had prepared for. Yeah. And what was cool was when they started getting adjusted, it started changing and transforming their lives, even like exponentially from all these other little things that they had did. And that's how we change culture, right? Right. And that's what we do at Align Chiropractic. And it's not because we adjust spines, for pain or whatever, but our goal is adjusting the future. The future, and I talked to my team about this today. We have an obligation to change the future for as many people, families as we possibly can, because we live in this culture, we live in this township, we live in this city, and we have a truth that other people, if they knew it, would change their lives. And we get to see it every day. Every now and then we'll get the person who doesn't get it. That's okay. They will. In time they will. And my favorite thing about what we get to do is we get to do it every day. Yeah. We get to start all over again tomorrow. Yeah. And we get to get better at it tomorrow. And guess what? Patients get to get better at it. Yeah. We do reevaluations. And one of my favorite conversations is a patient who is not a 5-star patient. The patient who's they don't get it yet. And so one of the questions I love to ask is, right now, why do you still get adjusted? You're in back pain. You've been in back pain since you started. You're 6 visits in. The back pain has decreased by 50%. Why do you still get adjusted? And they're like, well, because I want to get out of back pain. Okay, great. Now they're out of back pain. Why do you still get adjusted? They're like, well, because you showed me that I had this curve in my back, and I know I'm out of pain, but I want to actually correct the cause. I want to get that curve better. Okay, great. Then we take new x-rays. The curve looks better, and their spine's starting to look better. And I go, okay, why do you keep getting adjusted? And at some point you have to come to the realization of, if this got me here, why would I want to go without this? Right. If I'm healing better, if I'm functioning better, then why would I not do this over a lifetime to undo the stressors? But then the patient comes in who's 5, 6, 7, 8 years in, and this is where the question changes. I ask those patients this: what would it take for you to stop getting adjusted? And the answers, it's funny, that question throws some people off because they've heard, why do you get adjusted? Why are you going to keep getting adjusted? Why do you keep getting adjusted? And then when I say, what would it take for you to stop getting adjusted? They're like, you would have to die. Align Chiropractic would have to go out of business. And I'm like, that's fine. There will still be 20 other chiropractors.
Right.
Are they as good as us, or do they teach you the way we do? No, but like, you're going to not get adjusted if Dr. Ryan goes away? Yeah. That's bullcrap. Yeah. Chiropractic is still chiropractic. Delivered poorly, delivered unbelievably, chiropractic is still chiropractic. And when somebody gets adjusted, interference is removed, that is life-giving. And so I want my patients to understand, one day I will pass away. Yeah. Hopefully one of my kids will want to become a chiropractor. Hopefully they'll uphold the standard. We are standard bearers at Align Chiropractic. We are standard bearers in chiropractic. We are holding chiropractic to the utmost highest standard that we possibly can. And we'll be better at it tomorrow. And we'll be better at it the day after. But as a patient, we're going to call you to that. You're going to be a better patient tomorrow. You're going to be a better patient the day after. You're going to be a better human being. You're going to be a better parent, a better father, because that's what we're after. We're after living out our potential. And your potential doesn't stand a chance against subluxation. Subluxation, by definition, destroys your potential. Absolutely. The same way that sin in our life destroys our potential, subluxations destroy our potential. It's an interference. This will preach. If you're a pastor, this will preach. And this is like free sermon material, but it's all about interference. The source is always 100%. God's 100%. The intelligence he put in your body is 100%. The expression of it's 100%. It's always trying to express itself at its fullest potential. The Holy Spirit's trying to express itself at its fullest potential. The healing in your body is trying to express itself at its fullest potential. What interferes with, your connection to God and the Holy Spirit? Sin. What interferes with your expression of your health of your body? Subluxation. Right. What do? You remove it. And then you change your patterns. That's called repentance when it comes to scripture. And in your lifestyle, it's called transformation. You start changing the way you think and you behave. You try to start reducing subluxations and reducing the thoughts, traumas, and toxins that create subluxations. So now we get to the point where we're actually getting ahead of the subluxation. And that's where I want my patients living ideally. Now, stuff still happens. You can slip on the sidewalk on a snowy day. You can fall off a ladder. Those small things will still happen, but those small adjustments should still be happening to remove that interference so you can live life to its fullest.
And then when you're doing that, when you're in that, when you're living, when you've had that change, that experience, that transformation that you're talking about, there's nothing more you want to do than to grab every single person you know and start pulling them into it and start telling them and start grabbing your mom and start grabbing your dad and grabbing your coworkers and grabbing your friends and grabbing those people on the volleyball team and doing like I did. I found myself one day at a new school and my kid's going to kindergarten and there's a group of moms standing in a circle talking and I'm just inserting myself in their circle because they just are talking and on and on and on about hospital visits and kids' sicknesses and illnesses. And I'm like, hey, have you ever heard about chiropractic? Yeah. Did you know that chiropractic can help that? You just start doing it. Like those things just start becoming second nature because you understand it so clearly and it's been so transformational. Yeah. And you know that it's not, you know that you're not going to turn on the Super Bowl and see an ad for it. You know that nobody's going to get elected and get put in a position where all of a sudden everything changes and all of a sudden there's a chiropractor that's at your house every day adjusting you. Like that's not happening. Like those things aren't happening. You know, it's you that's going out and doing it. Yeah. And so that is where.
And we co-mission with our patients. One of my promises to them is when you start getting results, when your x-rays start to look better, when life starts to change, I will look you dead in the eyes and I will say, who do you know? Who do you know that needs to know this? Who do you know that their life needs to change? What family are you thinking about right now? Because that's where the transformation happens. So I really want to encourage you. One of my mentors said, until every single person you know is under regular subluxation-based chiropractic care, there's nothing else to talk about. And I don't expect that out of every one of you guys per se, but I do expect it out of my patients who see transformation. I do expect it out of other chiropractors that we have to be teaching people that there's a better way. I want you guys to stop thinking small about your health. The small things, the traumas, the accumulation of stressors, yeah, they add up. Don't get me wrong, but stop waiting for disease. Stop settling for symptoms and symptom management. Stop assuming that your body's broken. Your nervous system is really the key, and the innate intelligence that God put inside your body, the life that he breathed into your body, the brain, the nervous system, the spinal cord that control and coordinate all that function. We got to pay attention to that. And by removing interference, that small thing that we're removing might be the biggest turning point in your life.
Listen, that's why we're here. That's why we adjust patients every day in our office. That's literally why we teach. There's so much teaching that goes along in our office along with chiropractic. And it's also why we fight for all of these families and all of the health of Cincinnati. Yeah. We have said in this city, we're changing the health. We're changing the health of the city.
So to borrow from BJ Palmer's words, that idea is big enough to rebuild the thoughts and actions of the world. Wrap your head around that big idea. And if you get that, everything else follows.